Spain showed us exactly how to control a World Cup final, from a build-up shape that was impossible to press, to a defensive system that meant Argentina couldn't keep the ball even if they wanted to. And the result was one of the most one-sided finals in World Cup history, with Argentina not having a single shot on goal until the last minutes of extra time. So let's take a look at how Spain hid the ball from Argentina all game, but also why they still found it so difficult to actually create a goal-scoring opportunity. Now, in terms of tactical analysis, there's only really one team we need to look at, and Spain were the only team that wanted to play football in the final, while Argentina attempted to foul, push and snitch their way to a potential penalty shootout. So Spain kept to the same starting 11 they used in the quarterfinal clash against Belgium and the semi-final against France. And the key rotations that make it all possible for Spain is what happens in midfield. While they start in a 4-2-3-1, their actual shape is more similar to a 4-3-3, with Rodri dropping between the centre-backs, and Fabian Ruiz pushing further forward on the left. This forces the opponents to make a choice, either sit back and cover these two players, ensuring you won't get exposed through the lines, or press more aggressively, meaning from Argentina's 4-4-2, one of your centre-backs is going to have to break into midfield to make sure all these players are covered. With Spain in possession, they also have the advantage of a player like Oyarzabal, who is rarely just sitting on the defensive line, and is free to move all over the midfield to completely overload the centre. The vast majority of the game was played with Spain holding the ball near the midfield line, which is where we could see this overload take place. Most of the time, Spain kept this 3v2 advantage at the back, with Messi staying on Laporte and Alvarez shuffling between Rodri and Kubasi. But this would essentially mean that one of the two centre-backs nearly always had time on the ball, so the solution for Argentina would be to push McAllister forward and simultaneously have one of the centre-backs jump onto the player between the lines. We see this very early on with a big chance for Yamal. Spain have the ball, and they have this initial 3v2 advantage, and because Messi and Alvarez are on Rodri and Laporte, Kubasi can push forward. In this situation, McAllister has to close him down, and simultaneously Martinez jumps forward. But this small change in marking gives Olmo just under Lamine Yamal, forces a save from Martinez. What happened in the centre of the pitch is where it felt like the tension was for basically the entire game. However Argentina wanted to close down these players would change how Spain wanted to attack. But most of the time this 3v2 advantage was just too much for Argentina to effectively press. And it would manifest all over the pitch. For example, in the 6th minute we see Spain hold the ball deep in their half. Again, Alvarez has to jockey between Kubasi and Rodri, and in this situation, as soon as Alvarez steps forward, it opens up a huge gap in the centre that Spain can attack with a third-man pass from Oyarzabal. But even further up the pitch, when fully tilted aggressively in Argentina's half, the centre-backs were comfortable pushing forward and being the extra man. Like in this clip here with Laporte slowly pushing forward and attempting to get a player to close him down, eventually opening up a gap out wide. If we briefly look at Argentina, they would also have one holding midfielder sitting in front of the defenders, but Spain dealt with this extremely effortlessly. When Martinez had the ball, the plan from Spain was clear. Fabian Ruiz would step forward onto McAllister, Oyarzabal would shadow mark Romero, and Olmo would sit in the centre, forcing Spain to go to the left-hand side, far away from where they wanted to go, which was on the right into Messi. As Martinez would pass the ball to the left, Olmo would step forward and cover the passing line for a pass back to Fernandez, and Oyarzabal would shift onto Fernandez, meaning Fabian Ruiz was then free to drop back into midfield to balance out the centre. This essentially meant that the only thing Argentina could do was look for these long balls into Alvarez, and they rarely, if ever, were able to create anything dangerous from these situations. But it was the only way they could attempt to get the ball forward in the first half. This essentially meant that Argentina could never go to the right flank, and Messi was left completely isolated, and was basically never involved in the game. Before we go any further, if you like these animations you see in this video, then they were all made with my tactics software FM Stadio. We've designed FM Stadio to be as useful as possible for coaches or analysts that want to either analyze a game or set up the perfect training session. We're constantly adding new features and we've got some exciting updates planned for the new season. So if you want to check it out, you can get started completely for free at fmstadio.com. So we'll take a better look at Spain's defensive setup later on. But in possession, these rotations in midfield gave them all the control they needed, but they were still finding it quite difficult to actually break into the box. Argentina were doing a great job at closing these players down, and neither Romero or Martinez were not afraid to level out the midfield if needed. So this would force Spain out wide on multiple occasions, where the fullback-winger combinations were their next solution. As we've seen all World Cup, there are constant rotations between these two players, specifically on the left with Cucurella and Baena, with one hugging the touchline and one in the half space. And the ball for Spain would nearly always end up in these positions. The issue from here, however, was the final pass or the final cross. A lot of the time, Spain did break into this pocket behind the fullback, for example, like we see in this clip here. Again, with Argentina not knowing how to close down Laporte, given this man disadvantage. So he has time to pick out Cucurella, but with Argentina having so many players in the low block, it was nearly impossible for Spain to find the right pass back into the centre. And the move would consistently break down, or they would circulate possession and try again. These patterns continued essentially for the whole of the second half as well. Spain continued to control possession, and Argentina would drop deeper and deeper into their low block. But the biggest chances for Spain were coming in the moments where they were able to drag Argentina out of this defensive shape. A great move in the second half starts with Alvarez closing down Simon, and Spain moving the ball into Porro. And because Argentina were all tilted forward, Fabian Ruiz is free to receive the ball. And with a great combination round the corner, there is all the space in front of the defence for Oyarzabal to attack the back line. But they can't find the final combination with Fabian Ruiz. But the control we saw from Spain in this final and essentially all World Cup is not only down to their style in possession, but also down to their incredible defensive discipline. Firstly, the counterpress was absolutely perfect all tournament. And every time a Spanish player lost the ball, they were quick to jump forward and latch on to any free player, forcing a rushed pass and nearly always winning the ball back. The key reason behind this was also down to the height of the defensive line, with Kubasi and Laporte being instantly ready to jump forward, and also Unai Simon playing as a sweeper keeper, ensuring any long ball over the defence could easily be dealt with. In addition, depending on which flank the ball was on, the opposite fullback would always tuck inside to ensure they couldn't get overloaded in midfield, and any ball forward was closed down by Rodri before they could even get set up. It's hands down one of the best defensive displays we've seen at a World Cup, only conceding one goal in the whole competition. And they didn't resort to the most popular defensive shape we've seen at this World Cup, which is these extremely compact low blocks with teams essentially refusing to play. And you could see that as the game progressed, this defensive shape and this control completely wore down Argentina. And the further we got into the game, Argentina's true nature started to come out even more. As we've seen all tournament, they were aggressive in every tackle. They would crowd the ref every time something happened, and would over-exaggerate every single tackle from Spain. Ultimately, this culminated with a blatant foul from Fernandes to pick up a second yellow card, followed by Messi trying to get Cucurella sent off for covering his mouth for a split second. And Argentina were going to have to play all of extra time with 10 men, and yet still not a single shot on target. In extra time, it was simply one-way traffic. Argentina set up in a 5-3-1 with Messi staying high, and the midfielders would jockey from side to side to try and slow Spain down. Spain thought they found the breakthrough in the first half of extra time through Nico Williams, but was disallowed for a foul on Otamendi. And of course, let me know in the comments, but come on, there is no way that that is a foul on Otamendi. Finally, justice was served with Ferran Torres smashing home at the start of the second half of extra time, thanks mostly to a wonderful layoff from Nico Williams. At this point is finally when Argentina decided to have a go, and actually came extremely close, first with the ball back across the goal, and finally with Simeone firing over the bar from a corner. But I think it's safe to say that we all agree that football won this game. Spain were hands down the best team in the competition. They only conceded one goal and dominated nearly every single match, except the legends of Cape Verde. But what did you make of this final? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And thank you to everyone for following all the content that we made during the World Cup. And we'll be back soon with all the content for the upcoming season. Thanks for watching.